Oh God. Whoa. Welcome back to Real Life Productions. Tonight we're going to do a new segment called Real Pieces of. Now, the backdrop has to do with what the topic's going to cover generally. Not tonight, but generally, real pieces of are going to be covering nationwide and worldwide stories of the most deplorable, the worst of the worst, the ones that you may not hear of, covered in the mass media. So I'm going to go ahead and cover some of the things that you might not be hearing about. Now tonight, I feel like I can't necessarily judge others until I allow myself to be judged. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you about me and the things that might make me a piece of shit. So, I have a long history of criminality. I started off when I was 12, jacking grandma's car, get caught driving, unauthorized use, those kinds of things. And I got into a lot of trouble, a lot of fights coming up through middle school. I was bullied in elementary school. I was a little heavier. Back in the 90s, we had a size called Husky. And that was for shorter, heavier set people. And I was bullied a little bit until I started really going in people's mouth. Then all that stopped. One of my favorite quotes that I ever heard, and I can't remember where I heard it. For some reason, I want to say it's Malcolm X, but I'm not 100% certain of that. But if you let a man kick you once, they're going to kick you once. If you let a man kick you twice, they're going to kick you twice. But if you cut that leg off, there ain't going to be no more kicking. And I kind of related to that. So I fought and I was actually good at it. The instinct came natural to me. I'm not going to say I won every fight. I'm not a superhero. I've been beat head up and I've been beat by a mob. So either way, shape, or form, I'm not the baddest man alive and I don't pretend to be. So I'm getting in trouble. By the time I was 15, my dad, who was intermittent in my life, and I'm going to touch on that later in the video, was home from prison, living in Hyattsville, and my grandmother sent me down there to live with him for a while. That didn't last long. There wasn't much for me to do down there except for walk the dog and drink his beer. Now, he would allow me to drink his beer, but one night it came to an issue. I was in there, I was writing rhymes, drinking on his bed, and he had a woman of the night. They're in there hitting the glass thing and partying, and they ran out of beer, and I was held responsible for that. So he came in, he ended up slapping me in my face. I rose up. My dad was like 5'9", maybe 230, 240, but all belly. And I'm, over 6 foot by now. And I stood up. He's like, "What, you're going to bow up on me?" Goes into the living room, gets a Beretta, comes back, cocks it, puts it to my chest. I was scared. I ain't going to hold you. Like, I'm not going to play super tough. It hurt. I didn't show it in my face, but my heart going crazy. So he ended up not doing nothing, walks out of the room. I slide right out the window, and I had worked at Pizza Bowlies at the time, and I go there, and I'm trying to get my last check. I'm like, "Look, just give me half of it. Give it to me out of the register. I'm not coming back. I'm finna be gone." So there's a whole back and forth. It took a long time, but I get my check. I walk 295, first up Soil Conservation Road, where it's like pitch black. NASA is right there on the right hand side. So I walk up Soil Conservation Road, get up on 295, and start walking. So I'm walking up 295, the police roll up on me. And Ask me what I'm doing walking on the highway. I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. So they're like, you can't walk on the highway. There's an exit up here. Take that exit and go figure it out from there. Didn't give me no ride. I'm a teenager. I'm 15 years old. I'm a whole child. And I go to the Red Roof Inn right there. There's a 7-Eleven right there. I still remember that. My feet are already hurting. I've been walking for hours, or at least what felt like multiple hours. But so I go to the Red Roof Inn, try to get a room for the night. I don't have no ID. They not renting it to me. I call a cab. The cab showed up. Excuse me, I'm dry. I've been installing the pool today, and the sand and all, even though I'm fresh out the water, the sand and all just got my mouth dry, you know, my skin dry. So if I look shiny, that's lotion and Vaseline. And if I keep licking my lips, it's because my mouth is dry. So excuse me. Alright, so back to the situation. They won't rent me the room. I call a cab. Guy comes, I'm like, how much will you charge me to get me back to Baltimore? He say $50. I say, all right, I get in, we skirt. All right, so I get back to Baltimore, whatever. I ain't really mess with bro, but that gives you a little bit of insight from the DNA that goes into my system. Now, both of my parents are addicts. My father was in and out of prison my whole life. Jails in prison, I should say. And, you know, he was one of those people that chose drugs over his family. Now, me, I kind of carried that torch. The irresponsibility, the criminality, fast lifestyle. Now, I was never very good at it. I ain't gonna lie to you. I kept getting caught. I always stayed solid, though. That's one thing about me. Like, I don't got no rat in me. You know what I mean? I'm gonna break law. I'm gonna take my consequences. So I started having children at 19, and I had a daughter, and her mother, I had just come home from a juvenile facility, and I got caught for 17 strong-arm robberies out Baltimore County. So I come home. My homegirl Jen's like, hey, my homegirl feeling you. I wear out, whatever. And we only messed around for like 2 weeks, but in that 2 weeks, like, she enjoyed what we did. So she started doing that more often with other people. So now, there's a question. First of all, she didn't even tell me she was pregnant, whatever. But I find out from her homegirl, hey, she going around saying it's your baby. I get at her. I offered to get a paternity test. I wasn't in the hospital when she had the baby. But once I went up there and saw her, like I said, I had just came home from a little juvenile bit, and I wanted to be responsible. So I claimed this child. I signed the birth certificate, claimed this child. And I was never a good father. And that's going to be a theme through this. Alright, so as I'm talking about what a piece of shit that I am, that's going to be one of the biggest regrets in my life. Alright, like, I can't call myself a whole piece of shit, but I can say my movement, especially when it comes to fatherhood, has not always been correct. So I claim this child, we get the bickering back and forth, whatever. She say the baby not yours. Cool, bet. I'll roll out, whatever. Now, we've kept in touch sporadically over the years. But I was still involved in the streets. I was still selling, you know, this, that, and the other. Again, I'm not up here. I just have a good connect and I'm making a couple dollars. So, fighting has never left what I do. Still hasn't, honestly. But I started getting locked up for possession charges. Everything that comes with that, like driving on suspended or driving without a license. in 2008. Now, I've always been willing to work. Right now, I have 2 jobs and a little color contact hustle I got going on, which is why you'll normally see my eyes of a different shade, because it's marketing. You know, anybody that knows me knows that I got this going on, and if you're interested, I generally sell mine for about $20 a pair, unless you buy multiple pairs. And yes, you can probably find them cheaper on the internet, but you can also find them more expensive. And what I present is the here, the now. I got them. So, you don't have to wait weeks and weeks to receive them from whatever country you're ordering them from. I don't get mine from China. People's eyes are important, so I treat them with the same respect I would treat my own. So, in 2002, I had another daughter. In 2003, I had another daughter. In 2006, I had another daughter. And in 2008, I had twin boys. I had these responsibilities, but I never changed my movement. I never changed the way I was functioning in the street. And my children suffered because of that. So, that in itself is what makes me the biggest piece of shit, because they were innocent in all this. And they're great children, like all of them. Fantastic. I couldn't ask for better children at all. I was blessed with beautiful, intelligent, funny, fantastic children. And to you, I apologize to all y'all, because I know, given what my father and my mother put me through, I was raised by my grandparents, so I know what it's like to be missing that connection with your parents. And I'm genuinely sorry to all of you. Most of us are on good accord. We speak, we love each other. I'm there for them. My sons, they were the last ones to really get hit in the head with my criminality, which I'm going to touch on in a second. So, I've been in and out. I've given the jail and prison system about 8.5 years of my life. A bunch of it was fighting cases. I did do 52 months on 60 in the state system, not the feds, for burglary. In 2008, I crushed my right hand, was given a bunch of pain pills, realized I liked them, and then it was off to the races for me. Ended up in prison in 2011 for burglaries, robbed a jewelry store owner's house. Realized I was good at that for the most part, picking locks, getting in, cutting safes open, those kind of things. So, one more, and there's a whole story that comes with that, but for the sake of time and trying to keep this under 20 minutes, I'm going to skip that. I'll tell the story. If you put in the comments you want to hear that story on the burglary, how it got lined up, how I got caught, it's interesting. I got away from the helicopter on 2 separate occasions. The dogs, but yeah, I'll bust them up. So, I do the 52 months. I come home. I'm clean off of drugs for a minute. I'm back getting connected with my children. We get a new hire at my job. I get out of prison on Friday, working by Monday. Dude gets hired at my job. He starts picking me up. So I stayed strong for a minute, but one day when I was down, I was depressed, knocked on the door, let me get 2 of those, 2 pink 10s, and here we go again with a years-long struggle. So it got heavy, it got burdensome, and I ended up getting caught in Baltimore County with a sawed-off shotgun and a revolver in my book bag as a convicted felon with a box of ammunition for each. Now, mind you, I've only been home for about 3 years, and now I gotta turn around and tell my children that I'm looking at potentially what I expected was a 10 to 15 year sentence, and first 5 no parole. So yeah, that first 5 no playtime was yeah, that was heavy. So I prepared them for the worst, and it broke their heart. Like it really did. I didn't get many calls or visits behind that, and I understood. I dig my holes, I lay in them, man. I don't expect nobody to jump in and make me comfortable. But in my negligence, I affected them. I hurt them. And it was a terrible thing to do. It was a real shitty thing to do. And this is why I have to be the first episode of real piece of shit. Like, cause I'm not, but I've done some pretty shitty things. So I prepared them for that, and I end up doing pretty good on the charges. I pled guilty to the sawed off, and that did not carry first 5 no P. So I ended up with a long probation sentence. Like I explained to the judge I had these guns because I got robbed on December 12th of the year prior. I was like, this was in June. In December, the case was caught in June. I was robbed in December, and I refused to be a victim. Like that's not really what I'm into. I don't want to be the perpetrator, but I'm definitely not the prey. So I ended up with a long probation, and I went through it. I did it, but I ended up relapsing again. So if you watched my Fighting an Enemy You Don't Know, that was going on right before I caught them, or right after. I'm sorry, I lived there the first time in that house, and then on June 7th I got the charge. That's what ultimately had me leave after my mom died. That's what got me out of that house the first time, was them charges. When I came home, I lived with my sister again, back in my children's lives, and then I relapsed, and I moved back. I went to rehab that December, came back out, and that's when I ended up in that house. So my sons were visiting me, like everything was good. My children, my daughters and I were staying in contact. And then even though I remained opiate free, I was still supplementing my addiction with other things. Molly, cocaine, Adderall, what else? There was shrooms, like wasn't too much, but I thought because I wasn't doing opiates that I was good. I'm better, but I wasn't. And I had a girlfriend at that time, and that kind of rubbed my son's mom the wrong way, because I let them know I had a girlfriend, and I know the way she is. She's not introducing people to our sons unless she's fully committed, and I get it. I understand completely. I'm not gonna say I was right or wrong, but I ended up almost dying. I ended up having a heat stroke from a job I was doing, and ended up in the hospital for 3 days with organ failure. It was just happened to be their birthday too. That's what's crazy. It was their birthday, August 29th. I didn't go to their birthday on August 30th. I went to the hospital. It was a Monday morning, and I was like, man, I feel like I got hit by a truck, and like it was my lower back. And come to find out, my kidneys were shutting down. And that was a mixture of the Molly, the working in the summer heat and doing hard work. So behind that, and I didn't call them. I was in the hospital for 3 days. By the time I got around to calling them, there was no answer. So we really haven't had a relationship since then. And I can't force somebody to heal on my time frame. I'm gonna do an intimate video for my sons because I've sent their mother some messages. I've written dozens of letters, but they never got mailed. Just because I ramble a little bit. Like even now, I'm over 20 minutes, and I know I'm concise, so I throw so much information into something that it almost becomes unbearable. So I'm literally limiting this to 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna shut this off. But 5 more minutes. But so there's a lot of work for me to do to reestablish these bonds, should they want to. There was no real handbook for me to know how to love or be loved. Like their mother, for instance, would sit on the couch, look at me. I would look over. She'd be looking at me, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And she'll be like, "I adore you." And I'm telling my friends, I'm like, "Man," I was like, "I think she's crazy, like for real. Like, what's I adore you? Like I had never heard nothing like that before in my life." And I always looked at people like they're temporary, and they are to me. Like they have nobody's been able to really stick through the things that I went through in life, which gave me a huge distrust. Because when I say I love you, I may be mad, I may have to walk away for a minute, but I don't give up on human beings. Like I feel like when you tell somebody you love them, like that's huge. Like that's huge, and a lot of people can't stand. And it's not their obligation to do that. I understand. But at the same time, I guess you have to pick what's worth fighting for and how much fight you're willing to put into it. So with the shitty things I did, I guess it wasn't worth fighting for them. And that's cool. My daughters, fantastic. I love them to death. They're all in my life. We speak. I just have to really get back into my son's life and do that. Now, the reason why I gave myself that POS title wasn't just for this. It is in my addiction, I had stolen from my grandmother. In my addiction, come to find out, and I didn't know this until trial, but the jewelry store owner's wife had cancer, and I broke into the house, and I took that security, that peace of mind of their house away from them. And I try not to. You look at burglary like it's a victimless crime. People are insured. They got homeowners, renters insurance, whatever. That's the lie we tell to ourselves as addicts and as criminals, that everybody else is alright. Like we're not really affecting them, and it's wrong. It's dead wrong. I've been wrong. So as I wrap this up, that's why I have to say I am the number one piece of shit, because I'm aware and I walk with it every day of the things that I've done to people. The only thing I can do is not repeat the same mistakes, and I tell my children that. I can't promise I'll never go back to prison. I can't promise I won't make more mistakes. I can only promise that I'm not going to remake the same mistake twice. So with that, my next episode will be on a top tier piece of shit. I just had to clear my soul so I could be comfortable in judging another human being without misrepresenting myself to you guys. There's some people that have been very supportive on my social media channels and trying to grow this. So it would be unfair for me to misrepresent myself to you. If you have any questions, comment. If you like what I'm out here saying, click a button. If you love hearing me talk, click another button. If you think somebody should hear what I'm saying, click the other button. And with that, I'm gonna finish off. This what it is. That's what it was. This what it be like.